Hey everybody, Aaron Rift here from NoDQ.com. This is a NoDQ Top 5 series video. Today I will be discussing the top 5 turns from the Golden Era of WWE. This period includes 1984 to 1992. This is just my opinion, keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and get started. My number 5 is from 1986. Paul Mr. Wonderful Orndorff turning heel on Hulk Hogan. Now, Orndorff and Hogan were initially enemies when Orndorff came into WWE in 1984, but then Orndorff fired his manager, Bobby the Brain Heenan, in 1985, and for a while it looked like he was on the track to righteousness. He was aligned with Hulk Hogan. They had a tag team match against King Kong Bundy and Big John Studd, but then the unthinkable happened. Paul Orndorff betrayed his friend, Hulk Hogan. As Gorilla Monsoon put it, he was the Benedict Arnold of the WWE. Orndorff would then take it a step further by coming out, reuniting with his manager Bobby Heenan, and then coming out to Hulk Hogan's theme music, literally stealing his music. Hogan would eventually get his revenge in a steel cage match, although that was controversial, with both men hitting the floor at the same time. But that turn was definitely one of the more shocking moments during that period in the Golden Era. For Paul Orndorff to betray Hulk Hogan and realign with Bobby Heenan was a slap in the face to Hulkamaniacs around the world. Next up at number 4 is the Randy Savage heel turn against Hulk Hogan in early 1989 at the main event. This was something that had been building up for months. The tension, the tease that things might have not been right between Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. They had formed this union, the Mega Powers, but there was Elizabeth. She was the woman that was there with them, but there was jealousy. Randy Savage was feeling that Hulk Hogan was trying to make a move on his woman. And at the main event, it was Hogan and Savage against the Twin Towers, Big Boss Man, and Akeem. Randy Savage had accidentally been knocked into Elizabeth, and Hogan, concerned for Elizabeth's well-being, picked her up and took her to the backstage area to get medical treatment. Meanwhile, Randy Savage was left alone to fend off both members of the Twin Towers. Hogan finally came back, but then Savage, fed up with Hogan's crap, slapped him in the face and left. Hogan was eventually able to win the match on his own somehow. He headed to the back. He was furious that Randy Savage slapped him and purposely left him alone. And then you had the big moment where Randy Savage said that Hogan had lust in his eyes for Elizabeth, and then he proceeded to attack Hogan with the championship belt, and that was the end of the Mega Powers as we knew it. And it led to a very entertaining WrestleMania 5 main event between Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. Coming in at number 3 is not a heel turn this time, but a babyface turn. This is from the 1991 Royal Rumble, when Virgil finally broke away from the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. Since coming into WWE, Ted DiBiase had his servant, Virgil, by his side, who would take care of DiBiase's dirty work, but he was actually referred to as Ted DiBiase's bodyguard. However, you did have those racial undertones, a white guy with money telling a black guy what to do, and it was an interesting storyline because for a long time you were waiting for Virgil to finally step away from DiBiase and become his own man, and DiBiase would get worse. He would continue to humiliate Virgil and make him do degrading things, and then finally at the Royal Rumble there was a miscommunication between DiBiase and Virgil, and DiBiase took it one step too far. He ordered Virgil to pick up the $1 Million belt and put it around his waist. And Roddy Piper was just pleading for Virgil to do the right thing, as was everyone else. You were just waiting for that moment. It had been building up for so long, and then finally Virgil hauls off and attacks DiBiase, and everyone's going crazy. Piper's going crazy, and then Piper would end up training Virgil for the WrestleMania 7 match between DiBiase and Virgil. Such a great babyface turn to finally see Virgil break away from DiBiase and become his own man. And now for my number 2 turn in the history of the WWE Golden Era period. This one almost never came to be. Basically, what was supposed to happen was we were supposed to have a tag team match between Ric Flair and Razor Ramon against the Ultimate Maniacs, Ultimate Warrior and Randy Savage. Unfortunately, the Ultimate Warrior got fired by WWE, so Randy Savage needed a replacement in storyline. In storyline, Ultimate Warrior just disappeared. He went into parts unknown. Randy Savage decided to take a chance, and he made the offer to Mr. Perfect, who was the executive consultant of Ric Flair. And he was a longtime ally of Bobby the Brain Heenan. The three of them were together, Heenan, Perfect, and Flair. So for Mr. Perfect to perhaps leave that trio seemed unimaginable, but Randy Savage decided to give it a shot. Basically, Mr. Perfect started laughing it off, but then Bobby Heenan got a little bit carried away with his thoughts, and then Mr. Perfect started realizing that, hey, this guy has been using me and doesn't think I can do it. So that's when Mr. Perfect finally, something snapped in his head. He had enough of Bobby Heenan's crap. Bobby Heenan said, "You do what I tell you to do," to which Mr. Perfect responded by grabbing Heenan by the tie and saying that he does what he wants. He's Mr. Perfect. And he said, "I accept it, Savage." And then he proceeded to pour a pitcher of water on Bobby Heenan and refer to Heenan as the wet weasel. I love this babyface turn. I thought Mr. Perfect did a tremendous job, as did Bobby Heenan. And I think they took a bad situation with the Warrior being gone, and they made it a very memorable moment in WWE history when Mr. Perfect finally broke away on his own and teamed up with Randy Savage at that Survivor Series. And now for my number 1 turn of the Golden Era, and quite frankly, this is one of the best turns of any era in WWE. Shawn Michaels turning heel against his tag team partner Marty Jannetty during the Barbershop in January of 1991. The Rockers were one of the most entertaining teams of that period in WWE. They were tag team specialists, as Gorilla Monsoon put it, but they started having issues. There were miscommunications, and they were on the verge of breaking up, and that's why Brutus Beefcake decided to bring them onto his talk show, The Barbershop, to have them talk their issues out. Somehow it looked like things were going to be okay. Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty ended up shaking hands, and Jannetty thought everything was good, and then all of a sudden, Shawn Michaels super kicked Jannetty. Now, before this happened, Bobby Heenan was like, yeah, they're made for each other. And then as soon as Shawn Michaels gave him the super kick, Heenan's like, I knew he was going to do that. And then we had Shawn Michaels pick up Marty Jannetty and throw Jannetty through the barbershop window. Wait, correct that. We had Marty Jannetty, as Bobby Heenan put it, tried to jump through the window to escape Shawn Michaels. I love the reaction from Heenan. Heenan really made this segment, but quite frankly, everybody involved did. Shawn Michaels was great, Marty Jannetty was great, and it was one of the all-time most memorable heel turns when Shawn Michaels broke away from the Rockers and became the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, and the rest, as they say, is history. That will do it for my top 5 turns in the history of the WWE Golden Era. Let me know what you thought about the video, leave a comment, and if you feel like it, give the subscription button a throw through the barbershop window. Tell a friend about these videos, and stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest wrestling news and rumors. Thank you very much for watching.